Welcome to Creative Caregiving and Beyond. More and more people are having to become caregivers for their elderly loved ones, and navigating this journey can be really difficult. This podcast will provide guidance and give practical tips for your family. Your host is Wendy Whiteman, elder law attorney, author, speaker, and leading insight advisor in senior protocol and senior lifestyle trends. Know that you are not alone in getting the help that you need. Let's get started. And here's Wendy.
Welcome to the podcast. And like many of you, I'm the primary caregiver for my mother. And today we wanted to bring you some information I think will be helpful along your journey. We have a special guest, two special guests today. We have Mary Stewart and we have Christy Byerly of Senior Living Specialist. Welcome to the show, ladies.
Thank you.
Well, I am just so excited to hear about your services. And I know that our audience is going to be really excited too, because the number one question I get from my clients as an elder law attorney is, how can I find a facility? And they'll say, Wendy, have you heard about this one? Do you know anything about it? And I'm like, well, no, but maybe you could talk to another client of mine that has a loved one there. Mm-hmm. But you have a wonderful service. But let's back up and see how was the company founded? How did it get started?
I'll let Christy speak to that. She's been with the company longer than I have.
Okay, all right.
It is
Christy?
locally founded by a great guy. So.
Yes.
Yeah.
So our founder of Senior Living Specialist is Paul Markowitz.
Okay.
And his mom was diagnosed with early onset dementia at age 59. And so he went through a national company to try to find a place for her to live. And he had a horrible experience. His number got blasted out. And so not only is he dealing with the stress of having to find a place for his mom, but now he's dealing with all these sales calls. Yes. So he thought there's got to be a better way to do this. And he was working downtown Dallas and traveling all the time and business guy. And so he thought, you know what, I'm going to start this company. And he's built it up. When I started working there, he's had 3 people there, and now we're up to 17.
Wow.
Yes. So it's a real passion. Everyone on our team has a reason why they work there.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, great. Well, how did you guys get started in this industry? Did you always work in the elder care space, or do you have a personal experience that drove you to this area?
I didn't begin there. My background is in advertising.
Okay.
And I had a career with that. Took a hiatus, raised my family. I have teenage children now. And I used Paul's services. I used Senior Living Specialists to help place an aunt of mine across country from Los Angeles to Dallas. Okay. And I called them for guidance on putting me in the right direction and simplifying that search. And after that process, it was so easy and comforting. And, I couldn't have done it without the expertise that they offered. I approached him and said, if you have someone in my area that I could talk to about teaming up with, I would be really interested in that. And he said, I really don't have anyone in that corner of the Metroplex yet.
Right.
And so, let's talk. And that's where it started. And that was the genesis of that. And it's wonderful. So I'm happy to be an advocate for seniors and representing my neighborhood and community.
That's great. Well, it's amazing how so many things get started just based on a need, just fulfilling a need. Mm-hmm. And Christy, what I found very interesting about your background is a licensed master social worker. Yes. And, I've seen LSW and I've seen the LM occasionally, but I had no idea what it meant.
Yes.
And is it a specialty in gerontology you have, or?
I do.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I have a bachelor's degree in social work and then my master's degree in social work. Okay. And then I've taken the licensing exam to become licensed. So licensed master social worker. And then recently we have 2 social workers on the team, myself and another lady, Sarah, and we both got certified to be advanced social workers in gerontology. Wonderful. So we are really excited about that. Just think it really helps, with the families that we're helping.
Wow. What great credentials. I mean, in the company, because you've got experience and you've got the educational background as well. You can't beat that combination. Yeah. Let's talk about some of your services. So for instance, if a family's trying to find a place and they're and especially during this past year we've experienced, they couldn't actually go to a lot of facilities and tour them like they normally would be able to do. So if they call you up, where do you start?
Sure. So we have a questionnaire that we fill out.
Okay.
And really, it's a conversation, but it just, there are some checkpoints that we want to hit.
Okay.
And it's learning about the individual or individuals that we are going to help place. It's learning about what their needs are, what their wants are, budget, location, care needs. We incorporate all of that, learn about all of that as much as we can to help narrow down the search, so that the family is only having to go look at a few places, not every place that you see on the corner. So that's how we start the process. And it depends on if somebody's in a rehab or a hospital, or, just looking down the road based on how quickly, if we need to help somebody when they're in rehab and they need to move somewhere in the next week, we can do it, or the next couple of days, we can do it. We do it. So, or we can, work with families for years and years and years until they're finally ready. So it's it's a
wonderful.
Right.
variation.
It's all on their time.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many facilities out there. I remember when I started practicing in this area, there were a few facilities, but now there's like one on every corner almost.
There are many.
So you guys have to really know what's out there.
Right, right. And we sort of, go with the phrase navigating the senior care maze.
Yes.
Because it is really a maze of which way do I turn? Most people have some sort of experience with a family member or a friend, someone who has a loved one or neighbor that needs to have a service like us. And you really just don't know where to start.
Right.
And you certainly can't pick up the phone and call 20 different communities.
Right.
So that's where we step in and we can help those families with the solution.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So the number one question I get after I give my consultation is, how much does it cost?
Yes, that's a very good question.
Yeah. So how much does it cost a family if they call you up and to get placed? I know, does that vary, or how does that work?
It is free.
It is free?
It's free to the family.
Wow. That's
Absolutely
very good. Very
It's
good.
a free service to them from beginning to end. From a week to years later, it's always free, no matter what. The way that our company is compensated is from the community that the family member moves into.
Oh, wonderful.
It is a flat rate. It is a very regulated fee.
Yes.
It is not based on the size of the unit they select or part of town or their age. There are no discriminating factors on how we get compensated. So it's very, very, open. It's no secret. No one's hiding anything, and just completely free to the family.
Very good. Yeah. Well, I'm sure they'll be happy to hear that, and I'll definitely pass that along to my clients as well. That's a great service.
Yeah.
And so the family comes in, they do the interview process. How do you vet the facilities? Are there some facilities you don't refer to, or do you have facilities and you just give the information to the family member, 5 recommendations or 10? How does that work?
So typically when we learn about the person that we're helping, we can narrow it down.
Okay.
We would know if somebody needs help with meals, like 3 set meals a day. We might have to look at some of the different independent livings, because not all of them will offer 3 meals a day.
Okay.
If we know that somebody's going to need help with medications and taking a bath and taking help getting dressed, that's probably going to be too high for independent living. So then you kind of have to move to the next step. And then there's memory care and residential care homes. Okay. And they all vary in cost and in price. And it's all just based on care needs and their budget. So we can find things to adjust to anybody's budget mostly.
Good.
And many communities will begin with independent living to assisted to memory care. There are different levels within the same community. And so, that's very ideal for some people who can forecast that they don't want to move at every stage of the aging process.
They really don't. And it's hard on the senior too. If they can stay somewhere where they're familiar and familiar with the routine and the ideology of that facility, that's great. That's great. Well,
but we do help families. Oh, sorry, I was going to say, we do help families more than once sometimes too. Okay. If they do go to like independent living or assisted living and then their care needs become more than they can handle, or if there's some behaviors or aggression and it's not the right fit, then a lot of times we have helped several families more than once go. It's like that. Residential care home might be one of the later steps for like a hospice diagnosis or something like that. So,
yes, the residential care home is a very popular category that many people don't know about.
Right.
They don't understand how those operate. And it's usually a home of maybe 10 or so.
8 up to 8.
8 up to 8. Okay, pardon me.
That's okay.
Up to 8, where there's more highly specialized care.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
So you guys are not only providing the service, you're educating the public
Yes.
as well as what's out there, what's
Yes.
available, like the residential care homes.
Yes.
Well, sometimes I have clients that need specialty type care for like wound care or bariatric facilities. And then sometimes that's kind of hard to find too. So you guys, I mean, that's just idea instead of calling around to
Yes.
who knows. I mean, with the internet, there's a lot of information, but then there's a lot of information.
Right.
And you can get lost in
That's
that.
right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well,
And I just always tell everyone to make sure not to fill out any of your personal information online, because you might think that you're on like one website, but it somehow gets grasped by another company and you could get your information blasted out. So if there's ever like, if you're driving and you saw saw an assisted living on the corner and you wanted to know about it, great, go look it up online, but don't put your information in. Email one of us and we'll give you our information about it, so that you're not having to get bombarded.
Right. So basically they would get calls from everywhere, every location. And
That's right.
I did that one time on a little survey about insurance, and I'm like, why did I do that?
Yes.
I mean, that next morning, Sunday morning, I was getting calls at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
About that. I was like, I don't want to quote. Okay, I'm done. I don't need it.
Change my mind, no.
Right.
Yes.
And we're not a call service. We are
Right.
individualized care, individualized approach to it. We take it personally.
Yes.
And you don't go through a filtered system into outer space,
Wonderful.
when you contact us.
Right. So you're kind of like a concierge. You can
Exactly.
give that personal touch to
I like
it.
that.
Yeah. What about, I mean, how do you decide which facilities meet the requirements for a family? I know you talked about it a little bit already. And do you sit down in a conference and go through and say, well, this facility is a little bit better for this? Or do you do something like the matchmaking dating sites and use artificial intelligence and then spin something out and said, okay, these are the top 3 for this person? How do you do that?
It is. We do have a computer system, which is great. And you can put, check marks if diabetic, on insulin, or diabetic on pills, whatever it is, that if there's certain criteria, you can put that in and then it'll populate, let's say 20 places.
Oh,
well, or just depends. So we know like, oh yes, this one is a great one, but they just had some changes in their executive director. Let's wait a couple months, see how that one goes. Okay, this one, this one.
That's a good point. Yes.
So we kind of we filter it based on knowing what's going on right now. So there, we try to narrow it down to 2 or 3 options so that they're not having to go do all these tours. But if you have a question about a place, like we'll love to answer it for you and we'll send you the information. We just don't want you to get stuck having to have your information all over the place.
Right.
That's a very good point you made, Christy, about the changeover. Sometimes, I mean, there's a lot of changeover in employees at facilities, and you can, and I guess that may be the nature of the beast. And so, but sometimes that changeover, there's not consistency in the service.
Right.
So, boy, the fact that you guys even keep up with that's awesome. And
it's
such
real-time information, real-time assessments
very good
that we're constantly monitoring.
Very good.
And it goes into our computer system, so anyone can see the real up-to-time updates on what's going on, or any specials that they're having.
Yes.
Right. And that's another aspect. We can be aware of what different communities are offering, incentives, specials, and we can really help you negotiate with your pricing, which is something that, maybe nobody would think of. But we are familiar with what the going rate is at a different property, and they're in constant contact with us about different specials and incentives they have going on, because they know that we are meeting with so many families on a constant basis.
Well, I had no idea. So I'm learning a lot today too. That's very good. Very good.
Or even just with the residential care homes, they will call us and say, we only have 1 spot left. Just want to let you know, or, there's just a constant communication.
Constant communication.
Yeah.
Great. And I bet it...
And they appreciate our service.
Right.
They know that that we are on their side, and it's a team.
Yeah.
We're teamwork with them.
You're almost like a marketing leg for them as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it helps it helps. It's a win-win for both of you. That's great. That's great. Well, we're just coming out of and sort of still in COVID. How did that affect your ability to place families? Or, I mean, trying to determine if facilities, maybe some were better at others and their precautions and keeping their residents safe. I'm sure that was a frequent question that you guys got from families on what to do.
We did.
Yeah.
It was really tough. It was really, really hard. If somebody was calling us during that time, they had to be calling us. It wasn't like they wanted to.
Right.
They are out of options because no one wanted to put their loved one in any type of care during COVID.
You're right.
So it was a lot more talking through the process, talking with the loved one, comforting them, and explaining the reasons why why that could be a good option. And it was just really sad. It was really hard to see. Some communities did have very strict restrictions from the very beginning, and I had a lot of respect for them. And then I still have some people that are at rehab that still need a place to go. So I had some care homes that could take people that had less restrictions, and I respected them too. So it was, you could definitely see a difference in the way that people acted and did their business, but we were all learning too at the same time, which I don't know if I took into as much perspective then as I do now, but we were all just trying to do the best that we could. So hopefully everything starts opening up, and I mean, more communities they're allowing more tours now and more visits. During COVID, it was mostly like window visits, or back porch visits, and you had to wear a mask and sit 6 feet away, and so hopefully it's improving, because I think everyone needs that interaction, that human touch.
Absolutely.
Definitely. We all need that. That's for sure. And, it's a game changer, I think, for our industry, because it's, even though we didn't want that to happen, I think it's allowed all of us to kind of rethink things and how we can make it better. I mean, this whole podcast is about that, for the elder care space. How can we make it better? How can we get the information out there to our seniors and their families so they don't struggle as much as they do through this already tenuous process?
Right. When you come to that point where you do need our services, you need a helping hand. You need a partner and an advocate and someone to speak for you and help you.
That's so true.
Help you, guide you through that.
That is so true. That is so true. So it's not, your social work degree comes in handy, and the psychology, the compassion that you have, and placing a loved one before knowing that, what's needed there because you've walked through it. That's great. That's great. And so let's talk about any closing thoughts you like to leave with our audience. Any tips or closing thoughts about this process and, trying to find a place for a loved one? Is there a timeline? And if a person is seeing that their loved one is having some issues, and because, for instance, in my book, I wrote about a family who's they're having Thanksgiving dinner, and then they're noticing mom and dad are just beginning to have a few cognitive issues. Is that the time to start exploring, or? And I know that's kind of a personal, subjective type thing. But when do they start looking at some facilities? When they're in a hospital? And that's when I usually get the call, when someone's already at the skilled nursing point.
Right.
But when do they start just maybe looking at some?
I would say we want to avoid that crisis situation.
Yes.
We don't want you in a hospital and having to decide on an assisted living in 2 days or a rehab in 2 weeks. We want everyone to be as educated and empowered.
Yes.
So call us. Let's talk about your options. If you know mom and dad have an amazing long-term care policy, then you know what? We can give you some options that would fit those needs. If you know mom and dad want to be in Garland, I can send you all the Garland places, and then you can weave through it.
Yes.
But it's better to have something hidden away.
Yes.
and then have the crisis situation happen versus have a fall.
Preparation.
Yes.
And then you're dealing with the stress of the medical emergency situation and having to move. That's what we want to avoid. We obviously can help you anytime, but it's just a lot more, I think, takes a lot of the stress off the caregiver, just to know like, okay, if we get to this point, I know where mom's going to go.
Right.
So I think it does relieve some of the stress and pressure. And even if mom doesn't know what you've got planned, you've got it in your back pocket and you know, and that can help.
That is so true. That is so true.
Right. Just a bit of a roadmap.
Right. Well, you know, when someone does have long-term care policies, and I have clients that have that sometimes, those policies can be hard to navigate. I mean, there are a lot of different, so to come in and have someone take a look at it with them. And I always say, you really don't know what type of policy you have until you use it. Whether it's car insurance, life insurance, or health insurance. It looks great, but let's test it.
Right.
But even with long-term care insurance, even if it's a short-term type policy, it's still good for transition.
Yes.
And it can save money and it just save a little anguish too.
Yes, a lot of them have respite options for if the caregivers were to travel.
Okay.
But yes, I have a list of questions that I will email families because it's important key questions to ask.
Yeah.
Because there is like sometimes a wait period.
There is.
And what if you didn't know that? And there's just questions that you want to know before you get into looking too much.
Very good.
Right. And there's a lot of information that we have collected, such as benefits for veterans.
Okay.
We know a lot of different, avenues that people can take in order to tap into extra resources. And so,
wonderful.
Those are part of those questionnaires.
Yes.
That's part of those questionnaires that we can offer to help them think in a different way.
Yes, definitely. And that's just, there's so many resources, just pooling them together to see what fits everybody's situation. I recently spoke with a gentleman who has a heart for special needs.
Yes.
And I've had a few clients with special needs, Down syndrome clients, but that's usually my clients are older, but that's a burgeoning area as well, or people who've had traumatic accidents and things like that, a younger community.
Right.
But to know where would you place someone with special needs.
And we do come across that occasionally.
We're coming across now that parents who are caring for their young, their children now are, older too. So a lot of times it is like a mom and a son or something like that. It does definitely come up where we're working with not just one family member, but
very good.
Like that.
Well, very good.
It's definitely an ever-changing scenario. You just have to adapt, and our whole goal is to make things as stress-free as possible for the family.
Yes.
Remove the burden, be a resource. We're the most experienced senior living placement service in the Metroplex. We've got years and years of experience combined on the whole team. It's like 150 years or something like
Very
that.
Good.
So,
yeah.
We are definitely well-equipped to handle almost any situation. Yeah.
Very good. Well, that's a relief, I'm sure, for a lot of families. You can handle it. And we'll definitely be getting our families in contact with you guys. Now, if they want to contact you, what would they do? Would they reach out to your social media page, or you have a website, or how would they contact you guys?
SeniorLivingSpecialists.com.
Okay.
Mention that they have learned about us through you.
Yes, if you want to call them up, if you call and mention that Wendy sent you, and
there you go.
They will definitely take care of you.
Yeah, got it.
Very good. Well, thank you so much for having to be my guest on the show. I've enjoyed this. I've learned so much myself, so I'm going to definitely be using your service.
Excellent.
And referring other people to you.
And I can send I can tell you the phone number.
Okay, great.
214-929-5055.
Excellent.
And somebody will take care of you at that number.
Awesome.
Our
Thank
pleasure.
you so much. Thank you for
having
on.
us.
Thanks.
And don't forget to like us on social media and subscribe to our channel. And I wanted to remind everyone to do a senior check, because it just might make your day brighter. Thank you for having us.